Welcome, villagers, to the village hidden in the stories. I'm your guide, All Kage, the creator and author of all the what-if stories you see on this channel, with your awesome suggestions, of course. I write, edit, and produce every story you hear, so if you're wondering who made it, it's me. I hope you enjoy today's video. Be sure to leave your what-if ideas in the comments and subscribe if you're new. Today's story is What If Naruto Was in the Owl House, Part 6. I've shortened this a bit from its original size so that I could get it out this week. This has extended the end of Season 1 to Part 8. Before we dive in, shout-out time. Thanks so much to everyone who comments, keep them coming. And our second shout-outs for my Shinobi Patreon members, Omar and Francios Lyman, a special thanks to them. If you'd like to support the channel, check out my Patreon. There's also something new about our change to our channels. I have a new Discord server for you all to discuss in, get quicker updates. Basically a group server for all who love my stories. Link in the description to both. Now, without further ado, let's jump into this what if. Part 6, Flames of a Plant Witch. Naruto braced his arms, holding them straight out as a shot of flame tore toward him like a bullet. He caught it head-on, the force skidding him back across the grass before he reset his stance and stopped it completely, hands locked around a sphere of fire half the size of his chest. It burned bright, nearly matching the sinking sun, heat warping the air and rattling the trees in front of the owl house. It would have been mesmerizing to lose. Naruto barely noticed. He drew the fire in, but not the way he used to. Normally he'd let the arm seals drink it down, one on each limb doing the work automatically. This time was different. The fireball didn't vanish so much as shrink. Pulled inward through contact point seals etched into his palms and the soles of his feet. Controlled, precise, deliberate. His new array, his upgrade. At least, that's what it was supposed to be. Ida grinned, having been the one to throw it. Wow, you actually caught it. Usually it takes you a few tries to catch my spicy toss. She tilted her head. Kinda demoralizing, honestly. Naruto exhaled slowly. 16 slots, inked in his own chakra-infused formula. 4 on each limb, linked like chains, all feeding into core seals set between his shoulder blades and across his stomach. Cleaner routing. Better flow, and a few new tricks layered in. It was an upgrade, but not a free one. After only a handful of absorbed spells, he'd felt it, the seal no longer functioned independently. It was tied directly into his chakra network. That meant control, but also cost. More burn, more strain, every spell shaped, altered, or redirected demanded give and take. He could absorb spells and matter now. Storage seals were basic enough. But reshaping them, combining them, altering how they behaved, shifting their energy to other matter or spells, that took time, focus, and chakra, a lot of it. And mixing magic with his chakra, demonic, unstable by nature, made things worse. Spells grew volatile, harder to control, effects twisted in ways he couldn't always predict. The seal system acted like a second chakra network, and like any system, it had limits. Limits that became sharper the harder he pushed. Naruto glanced at one of the slots, the absorbed fire rendered in ink. He released a fraction of it, the image shrinking as a small ember formed in his palm. He held it there, then slowly filtered chakra into it. Yellow and orange bled into black and blue. The ember turned wild, erratic, hungry, like it wanted to spread, to burn, to consume. Naruto watched without reacting. After a moment, he let it fade inside. Definitely an upgrade. Just not the one he'd hoped for. This was supposed to mean less work. Less training, more sleep. Not this. His own fault, really, he should have tested the seal before having a clone apply it. Still. He lifted his hands again, cast another, I need a few more. Ida raised a brow. What, you caught it? Yeah, Naruto said, not moving. I need one more to be sure, bigger than before. You sure? She crossed her arms. You seem a little intense right now. Naruto's eyes narrowed, not at her. I just need to be sure about these seals. There was something sharp under his tone, dangerous. Ida caught it immediately. She'd seen it before. That same determination. That same need, 7 years ago, and again, about a year after he first showed up on the Boiling Isles. Her voice softened. This isn't about the seal, she said gently. Is it? Naruto faltered. What's really going on? Ida pressed. You making new seals without telling me, fine. You doing things in secret, also fine. But this, she shook her head. You're not telling me something. Naruto lowered his arms but didn't answer. Ida frowned. Is this about Jiraiya? She hadn't wanted to pry that far, but the fear in him was familiar. Old, the kind she never wanted to see on him again. Naruto looked away, blonde hair shadowing his face. After a long pause, he spoke. You know I don't like talking about that. Oh, don't give me that, Ida snapped, then softened. We've talked about it before. You hate it, but it helps. I'm not dealing with Mopey Kit Naruto again. So? Naruto sighed. I guess, yeah. A little, not directly, but it's connected. Ida waited. You remember how I got here, he said quietly. Jiraiya being one of the only ones who didn't treat me like a monster. His mission, him not coming back, my seal mistake. She nodded and stepped closer. I remember, she said. Especially how distant you were when I found you. Loss had brought him here. Jiraiya, his godfather, one of the few who never made him hide what he was. Then Tucci and I am gone in an accident that never sat right. 2 years later, Jiraiya left on an important mission and came back as a report marked dead. After that, Naruto had no one. So he hid behind pranks that didn't go too far, jokes that made him seem harmless. And in the quiet, he worked, tried to find his family again. People said the afterlife was peaceful. But Naruto wanted to remember them with people who remembered them too. He'd been too young for summoning contracts. Too young for real jutsu, so he made his own way. Time-space seals had seemed easy, they weren't. Naruto blinked the memories away. That's not why I'm doing this, he said. Not entirely. Something hardened in his voice. Something feels off, Ida. I can't explain it, same feeling I get around Lilith, like pieces are moving before the game even starts. He gestured vaguely. Your curse, Lu's showing up. Things keep changing. I just want fewer surprises. Ida studied him. This seal used to be about getting stronger, Naruto continued. Now it feels like it's for more than just me. He dropped his arm. I'm your guard, King's guard, this whole weird house's. And if I can't protect you, she hugged him before he could finish. It was sudden, warm, protective, like an owl shielding her nest. Awkward with his height, but grounding all the same. After a moment, Ida pulled back and smirked. Wow, you make it sound like we're heading straight into a war. Her grin widened at his look. Relax, nobody's dead or dying. And yeah. Something's up, but that feeling is small at best, nothing we haven't handled before. Naruto didn't look convinced. Ida rolled her eyes. I'm serious, kid. Her voice softened. Be ready, just not this ready. She glanced at the sky. Also, we've been out here for hours. Naruto sighed. She was probably right. The feeling didn't fade, but he let it settle. All right, he said. He shifted into his smaller fox form and hopped up, landing neatly on Ida's head. Before anything else could be said, images and memories from a clone suddenly flashed through his head. Flashback. Naruto's clone blinked its eyes open. It was meant to be watching over Luz while the boss worked on his seals. But who cared if he'd dozed off a little? It wasn't like the world would end from a nap. He woke up inside Luz's new hood, the one connected to her uniform. Blinking a few times, he found himself in a classroom that had been turned into a makeshift darkroom. The clone watched as Luz moved along with other students, taking photographs and hanging them up to dry. He shifted, climbing onto Luz's shoulder to get a better look. Luz herself was holding tweezers up to Willow's ear while the plant track girls sat there smiling. Similar things were happening around the room, different students, different photos, about half involving tweezers. Naruto looked closely at the photos. They all seemed blank for now. And it still didn't explain the tweezers. "What's going on?" the clone asked, turning his head toward Luz. She reacted quickly, turning to him. "Oh, you're finally awake," she exclaimed, then immediately reached up to scratch under his chin. The clone leaned into it, grumbling softly. He never knew why the boss always moved away from scratches like this. They felt good, especially from Luz. And he was a clone, meaning once he poofed, he wouldn't get in trouble, so he could pretty much do whatever he wanted. Luz's smile brightened. "I didn't think you'd let me do that." Naruto usually moves away. "Boss pretends he doesn't like stuff like this," the clone said bluntly. "I don't." "Now, why does everyone here have tweezers in a photography class?" Luz turned back to Willow, who was grinning knowingly. The clone ignored it. He'd let the original deal with that. "Well, this class is photography," Luz started, but more like memory picking out of someone's head photography. "Let's pick another juicy one," she added, clicking the tweezers. Willow turned forward, allowing Luz better access to her ear. "Just be careful with my brain," she joked with a chuckle. Naruto's clone raised an eyebrow as Luz carefully slipped the tweezers into Willow's ear. She adjusted them slightly. After a moment, they clicked, signaling she'd grabbed something. Luz pulled the tweezers free, and with them came another blank photograph. The clone blinked. Okay, in all his boss's years of existing, he had never seen that. Luz smirked. "And who says brain surgery is hard?" Willow chuckled, rubbing her ear while Luz clipped the photo onto the wire with the others she'd taken from her. Before Naruto could ask another question, the teacher spoke up. "As you work, note that some prints develop with greater clarity than others," she said with a proud smile, walking past Luz and Willow's desk while observing the room. "These are moments that evoke strong emotional responses. Memories like these are very important to a person. This is, in fact, what makes them who they are." So they were quite literally memories. Condensed into photographs, the clone thought. "So all of these make Willow." "Well, Willow," Luz asked excitedly, instinctively reaching toward the photos. She was stopped immediately by a blue hand construct. "Yes," the teacher said, lowering her hand. "These photos make everyone themselves. If you damage the prints, you damage the memories themselves. Be extremely careful." Luz gave a sheepish laugh. "Is it weird I kinda wanna touch them more now?" Naruto shook his head but kept a small smile, then turned his attention back to the photos on the wire. They glowed faintly green, hinting at their magical properties. They intrigued the clone too, though he'd still rather be sleeping. That thought vanished when one photo developed. It showed Willow, younger, Messier hair, sitting stiffly in a chair with a hard blush, an awkward smile, and clear embarrassment. It caught Luz's attention too. "Oh my gosh," she said, almost cooing. "Willow, you had an awkward hair phase too? I knew we were meant to be friends." She held up a picture-day photo of herself as a kid, hair pulled into 3 awkward braids, each one decorated with bows and way too many stickers. Naruto glanced at it once, then looked back at her. "That's one heck of a phase." Luz chuckled awkwardly, but before she could respond, more photos developed. One of Willow being pushed on a swing by her dads. Another of her feeding a spider demon. A third of Willow with her dads during what looked like a winter holiday. And finally, brighter than the others, one of Amity hugging Willow at a birthday party. Naruto paused, Luz gasped, Willow grumbled and turned away from the photo. Luz reacted quickly, hey, I know you and Amity have history. Wouldn't it feel better to talk about it? No, Willow replied bluntly, her tone dropping as her frown deepened. I'd rather do this. She turned the photo around. There, out of sight, out of mind. Luz blinked, then her expression softened. You have to at least tell me what she did. How else am I supposed to cook up a scheme to make you two friends again? You don't, Naruto's clone cut in simply. Naruto's right, Willow added. I don't want you doing anything about it. No schemes, no plots, no ruses, okay? Now let's get to lunch. She left without another word, leaving Luz frozen and Naruto quietly thinking. The silence only lasted a second. You're gonna do something anyway, the clone said, not asking, his gaze settling on Luz with a knowing frown. She shrugged, a mischievous grin spreading across her face. You know I can't leave things alone. I mean, ever since I got you to open up, you've been way more like a house kitten. She emphasized the last part. The clone felt a spike of his boss's embarrassment, but didn't let it show. Plus, Luz added, turning the photo Willow had flipped over, she never said anything about shenanigans. Naruto shook his head, already imagining how those shenanigans would go. He didn't have to imagine for long. After he and Luz left, everything went to shit. Lunch happened, sure, but while hanging out with Gus and Luz, Willow started acting loopy. Later they'd learn Amity had damaged Willow's memories with fire, likely after seeing the photo of her younger self hugging Willow. Flashback end. This was bad. But Luz and the others shouldn't be too far with Willow yet. It only further proved his point about the boiling isles changing. Not directly, but enough to matter. They needed to save Willow's mind, quickly. Naruto didn't finish the thought. Naruto and Ida waited in the living room as the group finally arrived, Amity tagging along for obvious reasons. It took several moments just to get Willow fully inside the house. Naruto stood tall in his human form, watching her carefully. She still looked as loopy as his clone had seen earlier, movements unfocused, reactions delayed. His attention stayed on her almost entirely, making sure she didn't wander into anything dangerous or hurt herself too badly. Gus had already peeled off into a section of the living room on his own, a book report open in his hands and clearly taking his full focus. Amity, meanwhile, lingered near the doorway, subtly inspecting the house itself. She'd never been inside before. So this is the owl house, she murmured to herself, eyes flicking between crooked walls, cluttered shelves, and the strange angles of the room, then briefly to Naruto and Luz. Luz gave a quick, cheerful, yep. Amity nodded, trying for her best polite composure, but her nerves were obvious. Discomfort mixed with worry, mostly aimed at the house itself. And you, sleep here? She asked, glancing at Naruto. I sleep anywhere, Naruto replied bluntly. Ida clapped her hands once, drawing everyone's attention. Alright, focus up. Even minor damage to the mind can have huge effects on someone's psyche. Her point was immediately emphasized when Willow attempted to sit down, and missed the chair entirely, landing with her head instead of her bottom. Naruto frowned. That spell really did a number on her. Amity flinched at the comment, guilt flashing across her face. Exactly, Ida continued, eyes narrowing as she watched Willow carefully. Her brains burned up real good. Damage like that can change everything about a person. Willow may never be the same. Willow managed to sit correctly this time, only to immediately reach down and start trying to peel King, who had been laying beside her. Ida stopped it instantly with a sleep spell, knocking Willow out cold on the couch. King let out a long yawn, then started drifting off himself. Ida raised an eyebrow, I didn't even cast it on you. King yawned again and ignored her. Naruto barely noticed, his attention was still locked on Willow. He might not have been as close to her as Luz was, but the idea of the willow he knew disappearing entirely sat wrong in his chest. Fault didn't matter right now, fixing this did. Luz, clearly thinking the same thing, spoke up. Is there anything we can do? Ida tapped a finger against her chin. There is one spell I know, but it's very illegal. And practically life-threatening for everyone involved. She paused, then smirked. So you're in the right place. I'll just send you into her mind to fix the damage. Luz lit up despite everything. I have always wanted to do something like this. Thank you, Boiling Isles. Ida immediately snapped back to serious. It won't be easy, you've got a lot to fix in there, it's a mess. Whoever did this to Willow showed unbelievable disregard for her safety. Downright despicable. Amity looked away, guilt unmistakable. Oh, right, Ida added, glancing at her. It was you. Then, back to Luz. Anyway, who's going inside with you? Hootie's door swung open, maybe I can help. I'm pretty good at getting stuck inside people's heads. This is someone's brain, not a nightclub, Ida snapped, spinning a spell circle and slamming the door shut. 2 max, along with Naruto. Luz perked up, wait, why does the max change when Naruto's involved? Ida waved it off, plot convenience. What? Luz asked, confused. I mean, Ida continued, rolling her wrist, Naruto's built different. The strain on Willow won't be as bad as if it were 2 full witches and someone else. Naruto sighed and chimed in, my physical body's partially made of chakra. Less actual matter, more energy. It'd be like sending half a witch instead of a full person. Luz blinked, then smiled, oh. She looked around for who else could help. Gus was completely absorbed in his book report. King was asleep. And as much as part of her knew Hootie meant well, no. Absolutely not. That left Amity. Luz turned to her, can you help? Amity hesitated, already shaking her head. I don't think Willow would want me in there. You set part of her mind on fire, Luz said flatly. So yeah, you kinda have to help. Amity froze, guilt tightening in her chest. Naruto stepped forward, already positioning himself behind them. This mess started because of you, he said, not harshly, not accusingly. Amity looked up at him, startled. But right now, he continued calmly, it's only going to get worse if we don't act. So we need all the help we can get. Whatever you and Willow have between you, we put it aside. She hesitated once more. Then nodded, okay. I'll do my best. Luz reached out a hand, Amity took it, hesitant but steady. Naruto placed his hands on both of their shoulders as Ida prepared the spell. Ida's smirk widened, bold choice taking the prodigy who started the whole mess. She summoned a golden bell and handed it to Luz. When you're done, ring this, I'll pull you out. Then, more seriously, watch for inner Willow. Most people have a gatekeeper in their mind, emotions, memories, the works. She'll help you finish this fast. All 3 nodded. Ida formed a spell circle around them. Light flared, wrapping them in gold. In a flash, the 3 vanished, breaking into flickers of yellow light as Ida focused the spell, guiding each one straight into Willow's mind. The 3 started out in blackness, the sensation of falling, wind rushing past them, no ground in sight. Even without vision, the feeling flooded their senses until, suddenly, they hit what they assumed was solid floor. Before anyone could speak, the void burst into blinding white light. All 3 winced, throwing up their arms to shield their eyes. When the light dimmed, Willow's mind revealed itself. A forest stretched out before them, bright, colorful, alive with green leaves, moss, and grass. It was unlike any forest Naruto had seen in the Boiling Isles. The air felt still, preserved. The trees were enormous, larger than he'd expected. Naruto stepped closer to one and frowned slightly. Embedded in the trunk was a photograph. Not carved, not painted. Encased. The same type of memory photo he'd seen earlier in class. His eyes tracked across the forest, taking in tree after tree. Every one held an image. So that's why it's this big. There must be millions, Naruto murmured, already stepping forward into the forest. Luz and Amity lingered for a moment, taking it all in, before quickly moving to catch up. Luz tucked the bell Ida had given her away as she went. "Where is Inner Willow?" Amity asked after a minute, her eyes constantly scanning the trees. I believe we could use the extra help the owl lady mentioned." Luz shrugged with a grin. "No clue, but I guess the best thing we can do is start fixing stuff ourselves." Naruto nodded once, falling into step beside Amity, his attention fixed on the forest around them. He watched for anything out of place. Luz, however, stopped. A tree stood apart from the others, its leaves gone, bark blackened and cracked. The photograph inside was coated in ash. She brushed the dust away. The image beneath was black and white. Curious, Luz placed her hand against it. Her fingers phased through. She yanked her hand back instantly, staring at it to make sure it was still there. When nothing seemed wrong, she didn't hesitate again. Luz jumped into the photo. A moment passed. Then Naruto and Amity doubled back, realizing Luz was gone. Naruto stopped in front of the burnt tree, studying the image closely. It depicted an awkward-looking fort on a beach. He sniffed the air lightly. Luz's scent was still here, still present. Just displaced. "She's not gone." "Luz," Amity called, tension creeping into her voice. Luz burst back out of the photo with a wide grin. "Guys, pretty sure I found the memories. Let's go." Before either of them could protest, she grabbed both Amity and Naruto and dragged them in. The image swallowed them whole. They landed inside the memory, still washed in gray, devoid of color. Luz and Amity hit the ground hard. Naruto shifted mid-fall, shrinking into his fox form to cushion the impact before rising back into human shape. "So," he said, taking in their surroundings, "this is one of her memories." The tree stood behind them, the only one, still charred. Naruto turned his attention outward. The sky was cracked and blackened, holes smoldering faintly where nothing existed beyond them. The forest was gray, the beach white and lifeless, the water dark and heavy. "This place is really damaged," he muttered. "How exactly were we supposed to fix this?" Luz and Amity pushed themselves upright. Ahead of them, a cliff overlooked a beach. A wooden dock jutted out into the water. "Lake Lacuna," Amity breathed. Her expression shifted, sorrow, regret, but Naruto noticed it wasn't aimed at the place itself. "This is where Willow and I took swimming lessons," she explained quickly, then gestured toward the sky. "That must be from the fire." She paused. Then she gasped. Amity ran toward the beach, forcing Naruto and Luz to follow. There, half destroyed, stood a small fort, the same one from the photo. Wooden planks were scattered everywhere, tarp half buried in the sand, a lone bucket still hanging from the roof. It looked like the fire had turned into a storm inside the memory. Amity slowed. Then, carefully, she let the sorrow fade from her voice. "This is the fort Willow and I made," she said, picking up a plank. She discarded it, grabbed another, and placed it exactly where it belonged. "One day," she continued, "Willow wanted to play hooky from swim lessons, so we built this." She moved instinctively now, efficient, precise. Adjusting the tarp, setting beams, rebuilding without hesitation. Naruto watched closely. Not guilt, he realized, familiarity. Luz blinked when Amity shoved a plank into her hands, barely noticing as she echoed dreamily, "Forts, hooky, Willow, can words get any cuter?" Amity smiled softly but didn't stop working. Her tone shifted, not guarded anymore, but remembered. We knew the swim teacher would be on the prowl, she said. But Willow said she'd protect us with an illusion spell. In moments, the fort stood whole again. Amity stepped back, pride flashing across her face, only to fade just as quickly. Naruto studied her. You two were close. It wasn't a question. Amity looked down. Yes, she said quickly. That was all he needed. Luz beamed. It's like a tiny doghouse, like you and Willow hid away in it for hours. We did, Amity replied with a soft laugh. She knelt suddenly, brushing sand aside. Her hand closed around something. A small flag. She smiled fondly and placed it in the bucket atop the fort. Color rushed back into the world. In an instant, the three were standing in Willow's forest again. The burnt tree regrew its leaves, and the photo inside glowed with color. I think fixing the fort fixed the memory, Luz exclaimed. Naruto studied the tree, then we just have to do this with the others that are broken. As if responding, the photo began to move. The memory played. Young Amity and Willow laughed as they ran into the fort, only to groan as shell-backed, skull-winged creatures descended. The seagulls are back again, young Amity complained. Don't worry, young Willow said brightly. I'll get rid of them. She cast a spell. The fort flickered. Then vanished. The creatures swarmed as it reappeared. They screamed and ran. Willow, young Amity groaned. I'm sorry, young Willow said. I thought I was getting better. The swim teacher dragged them away. The memory ended. Amity looked away, exhaling slowly. Willow was a late bloomer. I know, Luz said gently, smiling. But now she's a great bloomer. She spun toward the forest. This place is like a theater, Luz said. The more memories we fix, the more Willow we bring back. Amity nodded, though her eyes lingered on the memory they'd just left. So which one next, she asked. Naruto fell into step beside her. I think this one, Luz said, already rushing toward another burnt tree. Naruto and Amity followed. Here it is, Luz said brightly. The one that started it all. Naruto looked at the photo. The birthday party. The same image from class. Willow clinging to Amity. Amity stopped cold. Why not a different one first, she asked, hesitant, staying back while Naruto stood beside Luz. Luz frowned, but why does it matter, getting Willow back is the goal. It's not as important as the others, Amity said quickly. And if order doesn't matter, then, can we skip this one for now? Naruto sighed quietly. He'd already seen this coming. You're avoiding it, he said plainly. Amity flinched. Not because it doesn't matter, but because it matters the most. He turned to the tree. This is where the push began. Then back to her. Whatever happened here doesn't change that Willow needs help. Amity's frown held, then loosened. She still didn't like it. But she didn't argue. Naruto stepped into the memory. After a moment, he held out his hands. Luz and Amity took them. And followed. The shift was sudden. The sensation of being pulled through the photograph twisted, then released them into a room with a dull thump. Naruto landed sitting on a bed, the mattress dipping under his weight, while Luz and Amity stumbled beside him. For a moment, they stayed still. Above the bed, where a tree trunk should have been, the photograph now hung framed on the wall. Naruto scanned the room as he rose. It was large, too large for a child. The bed was oversized, the furniture well-made, expensive even beneath the damage. But the room was in ruins. Toys were scattered across the floor. The door hung crooked on broken hinges. A dresser leaned dangerously, drawers torn out and spilling their contents. It reminded him of the fort. Not just broken, wrecked. "This is my room," Amity said immediately. She hesitated, then added more quietly, "or what it looked like when I was little." She knew this memory. Luz glanced between the wreckage and Amity. "So, same thing as before, we fix it?" Naruto nodded, "Seems consistent." He crouched to gather the toys, moving carefully, watching how the space reacted. Amity lingered, tense, then finally stepped forward and began pushing the dresser drawers back into place. Her movements were precise but stiff, like she didn't want to touch anything longer than necessary. Within minutes, the room settled. Clean, whole. Then pink flames exploded outward. The fire spiraled around them, hot and violent, and the world snapped again. They were back in Willow's forest. Amity took a sharp breath. That didn't happen last time. Luz didn't answer right away. "Maybe, let's see if it worked." The memory tree stood restored, its leaves full, the photo vivid. Then it began to play. The door to young Amity's room opened. Young Amity and young Willow stepped inside. Young Amity hesitated, fists clenched. "You have to get out," she blurted suddenly, "now." Young Willow frowned. "What, why?" Because, is it because I still can't do magic?" Young Willow asked softly, grabbing her hand. "Amity, I'm sorry about the beach. I can't get the spells right." Young Amity tore her hand away. "Well yes," she shouted. "That's why, you're weak, you can't do magic, so I don't want to be your friend anymore. Go." Young Willow froze, the memory ended. Luz stared at the tree, stunned. Amity had already turned away. Luz hesitated, then spoke more carefully. "With how you talked, it sounded like you and Willow used to do everything together. That you built forts, skipped lessons." She glanced toward Amity. "What happened between those moments?" "Drop it," Amity snapped. Naruto watched her closely. Luz tried once more, quieter. Was this the moment things changed? Amity stiffened. Pink fire erupted from the tree. Flames engulfed the trunk, though the bark didn't datken as fire spilled onto the forest floor. Naruto reacted instantly, grabbing Luz and leaping back beside Amity as heat scorched the ground where they'd stood. Something tore itself free from the fire. A humanoid shape, burning, heaving like it was breathing. It rushed them straight for Amity. Naruto blocked the strike with flaring tails, forcing it back, but he didn't counterattack. Unknown construct, inside a mind. Attacking could damage the host. The creature lunged again, at him. He dodged, shoving Luz aside. The moment he cleared its path, it ignored him. Amity again. Naruto intercepted, blocking and shoving it back hard enough to buy space. Not hostile in general, targeted. That was all he needed. Without a word, Naruto shifted into his fox form. His tails wrapped around Luz and Amity, lifting them as he turned and ran, fleeing deeper into Willow's mind, away from the flames, away from the thing guarding that memory. For now. They didn't stop running until the forest thinned. Naruto slowed only when the air no longer smelled like scorched magic. He set them down carefully, tails loosening their grip before fading away as he shifted back into his human form. For a moment, none of them spoke. The trees here were intact. Their leaves rustled softly, untouched by flame. Luz was the first to break the silence. "Okay," she said, breathless. "That was not part of the plan." Amity folded her arms tight against herself. "What was that thing?" Naruto didn't answer immediately. He crouched, pressing his fingers to the mossy ground, more out of habit than need. The forest felt stable here, calm. "Unknown," he said finally. "And that's why I didn't attack it." Luz frowned. But it was trying to, exactly, Naruto cut in, not sharply, just firm. He stood again, eyes serious. We're inside Willow's mind, that thing could be a memory construct. A defense response, a fragment of her emotions given form. He exhaled slowly. If I damaged it without knowing what it was, I could have damaged her. Amity looked away, jaw tight. Luz's voice softened, so, what was it doing? Naruto glanced back the way they'd come, guarding. They both looked at him. It didn't chase us, he continued. Didn't spread beyond that tree. It only reacted when we pushed that memory. His gaze flicked briefly to Amity. And it went for you first. Amity's breath hitched. So it's tied to that memory, she said slowly. Specifically. Naruto nodded, that's my guess. Luz hugged her arms, thinking. So what do we do, because I don't think we can just ignore it forever. We don't, Amity said. They both turned to her. She swallowed, then forced herself to continue, more measured now. But we don't run straight into it either. She looked back toward the forest, toward the countless trees. If it's guarding that memory, then the others should still be accessible. Naruto watched her carefully as she spoke, noting how she steadied herself by focusing on the problem instead of the feeling. Familiar. Controlled. We fix everything else first. Amity went on. Stabilize Willow's mind. Then, she hesitated. Then we deal with the one it's protecting. Luz hesitated, eyes flicking back to the direction of the birthday memory. And, that scene we saw. Amity stiffened, but didn't snap this time. Later, she said quietly. Please. Luz nodded, though her expression stayed conflicted. Naruto broke the tension. It's a sound strategy, reduce instability, limit unknown variables. He gave a small shrug. It's also safer. That was enough. They moved again. This time, more carefully. They didn't linger on any one memory for long after that. They moved from tree to tree, seeking out the damage left behind by the fire. A cracked dining room table, mended plank by plank as voices laughed just beyond hearing. A hallway lined with portraits, their frames straightened, their colors returning as the walls stopped warping inward. A garden where flowers had wilted into ash, blooming again the moment the soil was turned. Some memories were quiet, others were loud with half-formed echoes. Naruto watched patterns form as they worked. Many of the damaged memories weren't random at all. They centered around family. Around warmth. Around moments where Willow had been safe. Others were unmistakable. Young Willow and young Amity sprawled on the floor of a library, stacks of books piled too high, the air filled with dust and laughter. A half-rebuilt roller coaster track, the click of chains and a scream of delight as the cart rattled forward again. A study room, a shared snack, whispered plans about the future. Each time, when the memory was restored, color flowed back into the forest like a slow breath being released. But the tension didn't ease. As they walked back toward the deeper part of the forest, toward the birthday tree, Luz finally broke the silence. I still don't get it, she said, quieter than before. You and Willow were like that. She gestured vaguely behind them, toward the restored memories. Even with extra light it still looks too sudden, you didn't just drift apart. Amity didn't stop walking. That's not important right now. It kind of is, Luz replied. Not accusatory. Just honest. What happened that day, what are you hiding? Amity exhaled slowly, I'm not hiding it. She paused, choosing her words carefully. I'm prioritizing. Luz frowned, prioritizing what? Willow, Amity said. She doesn't need to know why it happened, not yet. Knowing won't fix anything. Her voice tightened. And if I tell you, you'll tell her. Luz opened her mouth, then hesitated. Why is that so bad? Naruto spoke before Amity could, because Amity isn't thinking about herself. He glanced between them. She's thinking about timing. They both looked at him. She believes reopening that wound too early could destabilize Willow more. He continued evenly. And right now, the objective is restoring her mind, not resolving every emotional truth. Luz didn't like that. It showed in the way she clenched her hands. But she didn't argue. They took a few more steps. Then Naruto stopped. They had reached another burnt tree. The photo inside was black and white. He blinked once. That's not possible. Luz leaned closer. We fixed this one. The image showed young Willow and young Amity sitting side by side in the library, books stacked around them, heads bent close together. Naruto's eyes narrowed. They moved on, and found another. Then another. Each one freshly burned, each one featuring Amity. The pattern was no longer subtle. It's targeting them, Naruto said quietly. Specifically. Amity swallowed. So it's not just guarding the birthday memory, Luz murmured. It's erasing everything around it. Naruto nodded, which means avoiding it isn't an option anymore. His gaze hardened, not with anger, but resolve. If we don't confront it, it will keep burning these memories. And eventually, there won't be anything left to fix. Amity straightened, then we confront it. Luz nodded, unease and determination mixing in her expression. Together, they turned back toward the heart of the forest. Toward the fire. They headed back the way they came. The forest grew quieter the closer they got to the birthday memory. The restored colors thinning until the air itself felt tense, like it was waiting. The trees here stood farther apart, their leaves trembling despite the lack of wind. And there it was. The birthday memory tree stood exactly where they'd left it, still in flames without burning, still alive, unlike the others. Naruto barely had time to register that it hadn't changed. The flames erupted. A roar of pink fire tore itself from the ground near the tree, rising into a towering shape before lunging forward. Naruto reacted instantly, two foxtails shifted, snapping up and crossing above him just in time to block a massive downward strike. The impact rattled through him. The flames didn't slow. The next blow came fast and wide. Naruto ducked beneath it, shouting, "Split!" Luz and Amity scattered, boots skidding against scorched earth as the flaming mass barreled after them. They regrouped instinctively, sprinting back toward Naruto as the heat chased at their heels. "Maybe we should have planned this out more," Luz yelled, breathless as they ran. "Why can't we just attack it again?" Amity demanded, glancing back as another burst of fire slammed into the ground behind them. Naruto leapt sideways, narrowly avoiding another swing. Because if it's part of Willow, he twisted midair, landing hard before another blast forced him to roll. "I'm not risking tearing something out of her mind that doesn't belong to me." He didn't wait for a response. In a blur of motion, Naruto shifted, his body folding down into his fox form as he scooped Luz and Amity onto his back with his tails and bolted forward, moving faster than before. Luz clutched at his fur. "Then how are we supposed to confront it?" Naruto growled under his breath. "I haven't figured that part out yet." Silence. He felt both of them stiffen. Neither of them said anything, but he didn't need to hear it. He hadn't planned this, he'd reacted, protected, adapted, like always. Another wave of fire surged toward them. Naruto veered sharply, then jumped, clearing the flames entirely. Midair, he shifted back, landing on his feet as his tails snapped out to catch Luz and Amity before they could tumble. They hit the ground behind the monster. The flaming mass skidded to a halt and turned slowly, heat rolling off it in suffocating waves. Luz bent forward, hands on her knees. "Okay, yeah, this is officially exhausting." Amity straightened, jaw tight. "And it's not stopping." Luz wiped sweat from her brow, eyes darting across the forest. This makes me wonder. They both looked at her. What else is out of sight in Willow's mind? Naruto froze. His gaze slid past them, to the burnt trees scattered behind the monster. The erased moments, the missing color, the way the flames had chased specific memories and ignored others. Out of sight, out of mind. His breath slowed. That's it, he muttered. What? Luz asked. Naruto's eyes lifted to the towering flames. That's how it works. Amity frowned. What are you talking about? He lowered his defensive stance just as the creature began charging again, flames roaring louder as it closed the distance. Naruto didn't move. Didn't attack. Didn't dodge. So you're Inner Willow, he said calmly. The flames faltered. The creature skidded to a stop mere feet away from them, heat rolling outward before abruptly dimming. The fire cracked and collapsed inward, shrinking, reshaping, until what stood before them was Willow. Or something close enough. She wore casual clothes, pink embers drifting off her sleeves and hair like dying sparks. Her expression was tight, annoyed, and tired in a way that didn't belong to someone her age. Amity and Luz stared. Oh, Luz whispered. That explains a lot. Inner Willow crossed her arms. You shouldn't be here. Then why chase us? Luz demanded. Why burn the memories? Inner Willow answered immediately, eyes flicking to the birthday tree. I'm just finishing what Amity started. Amity stiffened. Willow lost her only friend that day, Inner Willow continued, voice sharp. And after that, years of bullying, years of being ignored. Watched the prodigy of Hexside walk past her like she didn't exist. Her flames flared slightly. I used to feel everything, sadness, love, hope. Her jaw clenched. But after the fire in class burned through her memories, all that was left was anger. She gestured again toward the birthday memory. I protect Willow, and if this is all she remembers of you, then she'll never reach out again. She'll never be hurt by you again. That was it. Naruto understood now. That memory wasn't protected because it mattered. It was protected because it sealed Amity's place in Willow's mind forever. Luz stepped forward. That's not fair, Amity's changed. Inner Willow scoffed, doesn't matter. What if there's more to the story? Luz pressed. What if what Willow remembers isn't everything? Inner Willow's eyes hardened. It doesn't change the outcome. Out of sight, out of mind. The flames surged. Amity stepped forward. No, she didn't shout, didn't cast first. I was weak, she said, voice steady but raw. And my weakness hurt Willow. A spell circle formed beneath her feet, glowing softly, and the world shifted. Shadows rose around them. Her parents loomed, tall and indistinct. Her mother's voice echoed, sharp and cold, demanding she cut ties. Threats followed, letters to Hexside. Power wielded casually, the promise that Willow would never learn magic. Young Amity stood there, shaking. I tried to say no, Amity said quietly. But I didn't. The scene faded. I thought I was protecting her, Amity continued. But I wasn't, I was choosing the easier path. She looked at Inner Willow. I won't ignore her again. I won't turn away, not from her, and not from what I did. The flames wavered. Inner Willow's embers dimmed, anger draining away into something tired and uncertain. Slowly, the forest breathed again. Together, they turned back to the burnt trees. And one by one, they began to heal. Inner Willow didn't move at first. The flames along her body had dimmed. But they hadn't vanished, not completely. They licked faintly at her sleeves, at the hem of her clothes, like embers that refused to die out. Her eyes stayed on Amity, sharp and unblinking, as if she were trying to carve the answer out of her. And how do I know, she asked, voice level but tight, that you won't do it again? The forest around them felt closer suddenly. Trees loomed, their leaves rustling even though there was no wind. How do I know, Inner Willow continued, stepping closer, boots crunching softly against the forest floor, that you won't start ignoring her again the moment it becomes inconvenient? That you won't decide it's easier to pretend she isn't there? That you won't try to keep her away? Her voice sharpened. Like you did before. Amity's breath caught. Naruto watched her carefully. He could see the way her shoulders stiffened, the way her fingers curled in on themselves like she was bracing for a blow that hadn't come yet. This wasn't the controlled, polished prodigy she usually showed the world. This was someone standing in front of the consequences of a choice she'd made years ago, with nowhere left to hide. I don't know, Amity said quietly. Inner Willow paused. I don't, Amity repeated, lifting her head. Her voice wasn't defensive. It wasn't pleading. It was honest, in a way that hurt to listen to. I don't know if I won't mess it up. I don't know if I won't freeze again, or choose wrong when it matters. She swallowed, forcing the words out anyway. But I'll try, and you can't keep everything out of sight forever, it always comes back. Her gaze flicked, just briefly, toward the burnt trees around them. And it hurts more when it does. For a long moment, Inner Willow just stared at her. Then something in her expression shifted. The tension in her shoulders eased. The flames dimmed further, their heat fading until they were little more than glowing outlines. And slowly, almost carefully, she smiled. It wasn't cruel. It wasn't sharp. It was soft, fond, sad in a way that didn't sting as much anymore. Good, Inner Willow said. Then Willow should keep all of it, the good and the bad. She turned, already walking away, pink fire trailing behind her like falling petals. I'll be watching, she added, not looking back. With every step she took deeper into the forest, the flames faded. First from her clothes, then from her hands, then from the ground beneath her feet, until she disappeared completely among the trees. The forest settled. The air felt lighter, quieter. Like something that had been clenched too tightly for too long had finally been allowed to loosen. For a second, no one spoke, then, Luz barreled forward. You did it, she shouted, throwing her arms around both Amity and Naruto at once. Naruto made a startled sound as he was crushed in the middle, his balance gone instantly. Luz, Amity protested. Naruto wheezed similarly, tails flicking uselessly behind him as his face went bright red. Neither of them missed the heat rushing to their faces, though Luz was far too busy grinning to notice. That was it, we brought Willow back, she said, practically vibrating. I am officially done with friend drama for one day. I need a nap, possibly a week-long nap. She finally pulled back, hands on her hips, eyes shining. So, does this mean you two are friends again? Amity hesitated. Naruto felt it, that pause wasn't uncertainty about Willow. It was uncertainty about herself. I don't know, Amity admitted. Luz blinked, then smiled softer, then we'll see. She pulled out the bell Ida had given her and rang it without hesitation. The Owl House living room snapped back into place. Ida and King were panting, both standing atop the coffee table like victorious gladiators. Various objects were strewn across the floor, scrolls, cushions, cups, a broken chair leg, evidence of the last hour's chaos. They had been working Gus's interview for his school project. Working was generous, Gus had pushed. The kid was intense when he needed to be. Ida straightened first, a smirk tugging at her lips even as exhaustion crept into her posture. So, she said, brushing hair out of her face. Who got the gig, kid? Gus tapped his notepad thoughtfully, humming to himself. Well, this has been the hardest choice of my entire life. He glanced between them, then nodded decisively. But with the public interest in mind, the interview goes to, he paused dramatically. Hootie. King and Ida froze. King. Hooty, Ida echoed. Hooty, King repeated. The front door creaked open. Hooty stretched out of it, his frame elongating unnaturally. Hoot. Gus's eyes lit up. Well, your performances got me thinking. What could create such interesting people? Only the Owl House itself. Hooty gasped, loudly, Tell me everything, Mr. Hooty. Hooty slammed the door shut with glee, his voice muffled but already rolling. I've been waiting to hear those words all my life. Where to begin? It all started with a hunt, blood-red skies, that's right, Ida cracked her knuckles, I'm gonna do it, I'm finally gonna bake that bird in a pie. King snarled, I'm gonna bake that kid into a pie. The bell rang again. Ida blinked, she glanced toward Willow, still asleep on the couch. Oh right, I put people in there. She flicked her wrist. Yellow smoke burst into the room, and Luz, Amity, and Naruto were expelled from Willow's mind in a tumble, landing hard on the floor, still holding hands. The bell vanished from Luz's grip as Amity let go of her other hand. And Naruto quickly removed his hands from their shoulders, straightening with a quiet exhale. He let out the yawn he'd been holding back, the edge of focus finally slipping away now that they were out. Man, he muttered, rubbing at his eyes. That was tiring. He dropped onto the couch opposite Willow, posture loose in a way it hadn't been the entire time inside her mind. Luz spun in a slow circle, taking in the chaos. Whoa, what went down here, and where's Gus? What did you do with Gus? The kid's fine, Ida said dismissively, already heading off. He's just dead to us. She and King stormed out. Luz frowned, those are very mixed messages. Willow stirred. Luz gasped. Willow, do you know who I am? Willow sat up, a friendly scarecrow. She paused, then smiled. Just kidding, I remember everything. Luz tackled her into a hug immediately. Naruto watched quietly, a small smirk tugging at his mouth. Willow looked present again, grounded, like herself. Amity inhaled sharply. Naruto noticed before she even moved. She stepped forward slowly, deliberately. She didn't try to slip away this time. Didn't turn back. Willow's eyes hardened when they landed on her, but she didn't protest. I remember what you did too, Willow said. In there. She tapped her head. I can't say we're friends. A beat. But, it's a start. Amity nodded, a small, restrained smile crossing her face before she turned and left, closing the door softly behind her. Naruto followed a moment later. From inside, voices carried through the wood, muted, blurred, but still recognizable. Willow's voice came first, dulled but sharp enough to cut through. Question, how did Amity happen to see the photo I hid in class? Naruto paused, fingers tightening just slightly against the door. There was a beat. Then Luz's voice, rushed and far too casual to be convincing. You said nothing about shenanigans. Naruto huffed quietly through his nose, shaking his head as he finally turned away from the door and stepped fully outside, leaving the muffled conversation, and whatever consequences it would spiral into, behind him. A few steps ahead, Amity stood waiting without realizing it. It only took a few steps for Naruto to catch up to her. The night air outside the Owl House was cool and quiet, the sounds from inside muffled once the door shut behind them. Naruto hadn't meant to follow her at first. Inside hadn't been the right place, too many people, too many emotions tangled together. Out here, though, he could see it clearly. Amity walked stiffly, shoulders tight, hands curled at her sides like she was bracing for something. Willow and her hadn't magically fixed everything. Naruto knew that. He'd seen the shift in Amity's expression when Willow spoke, relief, guilt, and fear all fighting for space. After everything she'd been through today, someone needed to say something. His footsteps scuffed softly. Amity stopped almost immediately. She didn't turn, just stared ahead into the dark tree line. Naruto rubbed the back of his neck. "Hey," he said, keeping his tone light. "What you did back there was good, really good." A pause. "Mittens." Her shoulders eased, just a little. "Thank you," she said quietly. "But I didn't expect forgiveness, not from Willow. Starting over doesn't erase what I did." Naruto stayed silent. "You end things first because it protects you," Amity continued. "If you leave first, you don't have to watch someone walk away." Her fingers tightened. "Survival becomes the choice. That's why Willow wants to start new," Naruto said carefully. "Not because it didn't matter, but because staying there hurts more." Amity didn't respond. The quiet settled. "Back then," she said after a moment, "that's when it started. Becoming what my parents wanted. The prodigy, perfect, I thought that meant I was doing something right." Her voice wavered. "Then people like you show up, lose, and it all starts to feel wrong." Naruto's ears flattened. He knew that tone. "Fear. Isn't that a good thing?" he asked. "Changing? Not if I don't know who I am without it," Amity said. "Without being cold, without being perfect. If that's gone, what's left?" Naruto stepped closer. "Your mittens," he said simply. She blinked. "Sister to the Blight twins, prodigy of Hex side. But not perfect, no one is." He shrugged. "You're friends with Luz, with me. You care, even when you pretend you don't." Her eyes flicked toward him. "Being quiet doesn't mean being cold," he added. "And changing doesn't mean losing yourself." She turned fully then, uncertainty written across her face. Naruto didn't get another word out before she rushed him. "Hey!" She hugged him tight. He yelped, then awkwardly hugged back, face burning. "Troublesome," he muttered. He didn't mean it. After a moment she pulled away. "Thank you," she said. Steadier now, before walking off into the night. Naruto watched her go. Nothing was fixed, her fear was still there. But so was hope. Something brushed his leg. He looked down to see his tail flicking happily, like it did around Luz. "I thought I fixed that," he muttered. He grabbed it, it flicked away in protest. Naruto sighed, face heating up. Whatever that was. It definitely didn't help his problems. A few days passed during Naruto's guarding gig at Hexside. It was calm for the most part, too calm, leaving plenty of room for his thoughts to wander. Which he didn't hate, but didn't like either. He'd had the dream again, more often now. Each time, the figures lying beside him became clearer. And the talon tearing him away felt less abstract, more deliberate. More like an owl's. He couldn't ignore it much longer, whatever he was going through had a shape now, even if he refused to name it. The day began like any other. Naruto sat in human form on the living room floor, leaning just enough to look over Luz's shoulder as she worked through another glyph. She was already in her Hexside uniform, papers scattered around her in messy stacks. A flower lay beside her as she peered at it through a magnifying glass, pen scratching across a notepad she'd been filling since morning. Naruto studied the plant, the pattern sat dead center in the flower, small, subtle. Simple symbols. Like all glyphs. A circle near the bottom with a dot inside, 3 lines branching upward, the middle one leading into a triangle split cleanly across its center. "Come on," Luz muttered, squinting through the glass. "Please work this time." She copied the symbol onto a blank sheet, fast and practiced after hours of trial and error. When she finished, she tapped the paper. It glowed green. Then a flower sprouted. "Yes," Luz exclaimed, spinning toward Naruto with a grin. "Looks like my glyph skills have blossomed." "How long have you been waiting to use that pun?" Naruto asked, a smirk tugging at his mouth. "Since I found the glyph," she said immediately. She paused, feigning offense. What, not impressed? No, I am, Naruto replied easily, his expression softening into something tired but fond. You just do impressive stuff all the time. Luz froze. Her face heated up fast, and she opened her mouth to respond, but King cut in before she could. You think that's impressive? King laughed from the couch. This is way better, two warriors battling to the death. He waved Luz's phone triumphantly. On screen, two cats were meowing and rolling around near each other, hardly the massacre he promised. Luz plopped onto the couch beside him just as King shouted again, much to Naruto's annoyance. Yes, attack, death is your god. Luz narrowed her eyes. I'm starting to regret teaching you about the internet. King scoffed, what possible regrets could come from the internet? He paused, then added proudly, also, did you know the earth is actually flat? Naruto snatched the phone before Luz could. Yeah, that's enough internet for you today. He handed it back to Luz, who took it gratefully, then immediately stilled. Thanks, Naru, she cut herself off, staring at the screen. Naruto leaned just enough to see the message. How's the internship so far, Kurino? Luz swallowed, Naruto caught it. She typed I, deleted it. I'm, deleted that too. Eventually, she sent a thumbs up emoji. Her frown deepened, good enough, she muttered, unconvincing. Before Naruto could say anything, King leaned in. A severed hand, he said approvingly. Perfect response. Luz groaned and flopped face first onto the couch. What am I supposed to say? Hey mom, I'm not at the internship, I'm in the demon realm learning magic. Also demons are real. Love you, please don't disown me, nah, King said lazily. She'd freak out. By lying, you're doing her a favor. Luz blinked, the logic almost worked. Naruto rolled his eyes. That's a stupid way to go about it. King gasped. Naruto turned to Luz, his tone gentler. Seriously, I'm not saying you have to tell her right now. Just, don't keep it hidden forever. Luz hesitated. 1. Keeping a secret like this is almost impossible. Naruto continued. And 2, lying to people you care about starts eating at you after a while. She glanced down at her phone, then tucked it away with a quiet sigh. Hey, Naruto added, smirk returning. Don't go all gloomy on me, someone who raised a chaos demon can probably handle the truth, with the right convincing. Luz laughed, tension easing as her smile came back. The front door burst open before the moment could settle. Hoot hoot, Luz, time to fill that darling little head of yours with, Hooty convulsed violently, then regurgitated a stack of books onto the floor. Delicious knowledge. Naruto blinked in disgust, Willow and Gus, standing in the doorway in their uniforms, looked just as unsettled. Please hurry, Gus whispered. The longer I look at him, the worse it gets, Willow added. Hooty hooted, blissfully unaware. Luz laughed, stood, kissed King on the head, and Naruto shifted smoothly into fox form, hopping onto her shoulder. As she headed toward her friends, Naruto flicked his tail once. Hopefully today would stay uneventful. He already knew better. That's it for today. I hope you liked the video. Please like and subscribe, and comment ideas if you can, and maybe you could share this with your friends, because you never know, they might like what ifs too. So without further ado, All Kage, out.